Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mugwump Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Photon bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley. This is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start. Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am your host and the captain of this ship, Dayton Johnson. Yes, we are sailing the Caribbean on this particular episode. We are traveling and we're going to plunder. We're going to drink, and they already are drinking. I'm going to introduce my motley crew. We have, of course, Disney John joining me. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. Yo-ho, yo-ho. It's a rum life for me.
And I could not do this episode without a guy that actually put Jack Sparrow on his top 7 childhood fictional characters list. It is Liam Lewis. How's it going, Liam?
Fantastic. I'm ready to raid, pillage, plunder, and otherwise pilfer my Weasley back guts out.
And controlling Liam in this particular episode, it is Amber Lewis. How's it going, Amber?
That's red-handed joke to you for this episode.
Yes, it could, if in case you haven't caught all of the hints, we are discussing the film from 2003. We were discussing Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
You don't know what this is, do you? Aztec gold. The heathen gods placed upon the gold a terrible curse. 10 years we've searched. Every last piece we have found, save for this. Hello, Bobby.
They've taken Elizabeth.
Welcome aboard the Black Pearl.
We must save her. Where do we start?
Jack Sparrow. He talked about the Black Pearl.
Make a deal with him. He can lead us to it.
You forget your place. You are a blacksmith.
If you spring me from this cell, I shall take you to the Black Pearl and your bonny lass.
You're a pirate.
Forgot one very important thing, mate. I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Not sure I deserve it. You're not facing normal pirates. Cruel, demented, vicious pirates, to be certain.
Say goodbye. Goodbye.
But cruel, demented, vicious pirates who cannot be killed. The moonlight shows us for what we really are. That's interesting. We are cursed men.
I hardly believe in ghost stories anymore.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one. Gents, you all remember Captain Jack Sparrow. Kill him. I'm gonna teach you the meaning of pain.
You like pain? Try wearing a corset.
Here they come.
Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
I may have deserved that.
So, like usual, we're going to hit our opening thoughts on this particular movie and, throw anything in there about the first experience, the first time you saw it, actually anything with the ride as well, because it's all kind of part of the same thing. So, Amber, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, speaking for my co-pilot over here, it's kind of a family affair. when this movie came out, I had ridden the ride, loved the ride. But this movie was following the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie. Less said about that, the better.
Yep.
So I was absolutely 100% not watching another Disney movie about a theme park ride. And my parents went to see it because my mother will see anything that Johnny Depp is in.
Fair.
And they came home from the movie. And as I've mentioned on other episodes, my dad does not get excited about things. He was very reserved. And you'd ask him, like, did you like the movie? And he'd go, well, it wasn't Star Wars, you know. So he came home from this movie and was going crazy. He was like, Amber, you have to go see this. It's like swashbuckling and rum and swords, and it's awesome. So the next day they babysit Liam because he was just a little, and I go to see it, and I'm watching it like whatever. The girl's on the boat and she's singing the song and they're talking about pirates and whatever. And then Johnny Depp rode the crow's nest up to the dock. And I said out loud in the theater, this is the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like enjoying every second of it. So flash forward a few months later, it comes out on DVD. And Liam wants to watch it because Liam has seen Peter Pan and he likes pirates. So I let him watch an edited version because he was only 3 and I didn't want him to get scared.
Fair.
So I'm cutting out all the parts with the skeletons. And so he sees like Jack Sparrow being silly and, you know, some boats and, you know, he likes it. So one night I'm making dinner and he wants to watch it. So I turn it on and I'm like trying to run in while I'm cooking dinner and fast forward the scary parts. Well, I missed one. And I came in and the skeletons are on and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna have nightmares for the rest of his life. So I quickly start fast forwarding and his little 3-year-old goes, what was that with the skeletons? I want to see that. Go back. So I'm like, well, it's kind of scary. And yeah, he's like, no, I want to see it. Go back. So I'm like, okay. So I just let him watch the movie and he was completely engrossed and became Captain Jack Sparrow for the next like 3 years. We had to make him a costume. I had to draw on the tattoos. It was all Jack all the time. So that is our history.
Nice.
With Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's awesome.
So he was basically like the little Elizabeth Swan in the movie. But yeah, I like pirates. It's exciting. All right. Disney John.
I'm sitting here trying to remember when I first saw this movie. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater or not. It probably was the theater. It was 2003. It's right after I got back into the Ohio. I was living in North Carolina for a year doing a company job, and I moved back in 2003. Actually, I started school in 2003, January. So I mean, like I would have probably seen this in the theater. Probably would have taken my sons. I mean, I took one of my sons to see what is it? The third Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
The Kings.
Return of the King,
and you know, with the heads going through the air and all that kind of stuff. My son's going like, sauce him. I'm like, my 8-year-old should not be this happy. So okay. But yeah, I mean, he loved it. So I mean, I can't imagine that we didn't go see it in the theater. But I mean, I just remember, I mean, I even watched it today again, and it gives me the same warm feeling every single time that I see this film. And one of the things, it's like, I wish all Disney films were like this. I mean, like they start off with like this really slow beginning, which lasts about 3 minutes, and then it's a movie for the rest of the movie. There's like no other slow parts. There's nothing that's not part of the story. So I remember it, and I remember it clearly, like the actual viewing. I just don't remember if I saw it in the theater or not, which I'm pretty sure I did. I'm sure if I asked my wife that she would tell me.
Right. That's what they're there for, to remind us what everything we forgot.
Yeah, which is a whole lot in my case.
Yeah, mine too. So I actually did see this opening weekend in the theater. A good friend and coworker at the time, Brandon, we went together. And I was excited and hopeful for this because there wasn't or hadn't been a quality pirate film in years. And honestly, not since the golden age of cinema, as far as I'm concerned, because there's been a lot of poor attempts. But anyway, being a Disney fan as well, and of course, a fan of Johnny Depp, and I also was a familiar with Rubinsky's work. Of course, I love The Ring, so I'm like, cool, heard all about it. I'm all in. I was hopeful. So I will admit that the reference with the dog and the key and the guys in the thing, I missed it because I had not ridden the ride in almost 30 years at that point. So I forgot because I was a toddler the last time I ridden the ride. So I had vague memories of it. But when we walked out, he mentioned, I'm like, I can't remember. But of course, I did catch the song because it's kind of hard not to catch the song.
Right.
But I enjoyed the film. I had a lot of fun with it. I walked out, I was like, it was a great time. I loved the characters. Johnny Depp was spectacular. The visual effects, I mean, the combination of the real ships that they built, the real pirate ships, and of course, the Interceptor and the Dauntless all looked great. I loved the sets they built, for Port Royal. I really, really loved it. And then you have when they would go from flesh to skeletons, it was really, really cool, really done very well. So I was a big fan of it. And as soon as it hit DVD, I bought it, and the copy I have still has my Suncoast sticker on it, so it tells you how long I've had it. And every time I sit down to watch this again, because we watch it every few years, and I always go, "Oh yeah, Zoe Saldana's in this," because she wasn't Zoe Saldana yet. She wasn't, she'd just been in a few things, and I don't count Drumline and as a real movie, but whatever. So.
It's Center Stage was the movie.
And she was in that too, but I haven't never seen that. So I'm just saying.
You're missing out.
I'm sure you think I am. But
well, you don't have the dance background, so
no,
it might not mean as much to you. But
yeah, so this was like my first time really seeing her. And so every time I go back and watch, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So I do love the movie, but as I've gotten older and I've noticed more things, I do have some issues with it.
I feel like there's a big but coming.
Well, no, there's inconsistencies in the storytelling that have started to bother me a lot more than they used to. Because before I'm just like, oh, this is fun, who cares? But now I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So, and we'll get to those later.
Oh,
so,
I can't wait to hear these because I can't wait to put these to. Oh my God, Amber, are we on the same side again?
This is gonna get bad. I can tell.
That's right.
This is gonna get bad.
Two-time winner side, baby. Two-time
we're
winner
ganging up on you, Dayton. It's a mutiny.
It's a mutiny already. We haven't even.
Yes, it is.
We haven't even left Port Royal yet. Already a mutiny. All right. Let's move on.
That's the fact, Jack. That's the fact, Jack.
It's time for That's the Fact, Jack. These are facts about the film and our director. So, Liam, what production facts do you have for us?
Oh boy, Dayton, what a wild and crazy production history this movie has. So, in 2001, Jay Wolpert wrote a script based on The Ride. By March 2002, Jerry Bruckheimer joined the project and rejected Jay Wolpert's script because it was, quote, a straight pirate movie and not much else. He brought on screenwriters Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who thought about a pirate film based on The Ride during the early 1990s, having pitched the idea after completing work on Aladdin as a premise to studio executives who were not interested at the time. Bruckheimer brought in the two to give it a more supernatural spin, and these gentlemen were the ones who devised the curse around which the plot is drawn up. They were the final writers to receive screenplay credit, while all four writers received screen story by credits. Johnny Depp used a genuine pistol, which was made in 1760 in London. They bought it from a dealer in Connecticut. A number of swords were built for the production by a blacksmith named Tony Swatton. They spent 5 months building the Isla de Muerta cavern, filling it with 5 feet of water, 882 Aztec coins, and some gold paint on styrofoam rocks for more impressions of treasure. They built the fortress of Port Royal at Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Governor Swan's palace was built at Manhattan Beach. 3 piers and a backlot for Port Royal and Tortuga were built at the primary shooting location of St. Vincent. For budgetary reasons, the Dauntless and the Black Pearl were built on docks, with only 6 days spent on open sea to shoot the battle between the Pearl and the Interceptor. But the Interceptor was a redressed Lady Washington, which is a full-scale replica sailing ship from Aberdeen, Washington. It was fully repainted before they took it on a 40-day voyage to get it down to St. Vincent for this film. A miniature was built for the storm sequence on the Spruce Goose soundstage, which they also built the Pearl there to control fog and lightning and such. Principal photography began on October 9th, 2002 and wrapped on March 7th, 2003. Because of such a quick schedule, Industrial Light and Magic immediately began the visual effects work. Each scene featuring the skeletons was shot twice, a reference plate with the actors, and then without them to add the skeletons. An aesthetic complicated by Verbinski's decision to shoot the battles with handheld cameras. Jack Davenport, who plays Commodore Norrington, described the choreography in the climactic battle as learning a tango and then being told to perform it without your partner. The skeletal pirate actors had to perform their scenes again in the motion capture stage. With the shoot only wrapping up 4 months before the release, Verbinski spent 18-hour days on the edit while simultaneously spending time on 600 effect shots, 250 of which were merely removing modern sailboats from the shots. But so they did so much work on this movie, and it is just like the money is on the screen, the work is on the screen. It is beautiful.
Yep, agreed. Couple other notes I want to mention. It was released, actually had its premiere at Disneyland Resort on June 28th, 2003. And then went wide release July 9th, 2003. Runtime of 143 minutes, a budget of $140 million. Box office, $654 million.
It made $1.
Yeah, there was, as Amber mentioned, Disney movies, live action Disney movies weren't really doing great. So there was a very low expectation for this film. And then it totally shattered those low expectations, and for good reason. So yeah, great.
I still can't believe they did that for under $200 million.
It was a different, it would probably be 300 million now, but
yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah. All right. Disney John, Gore Verbinski, what do you got?
I'm sorry. His name is Gregor Justin Verbinski. He goes by Gore. I'm not sure why, but yeah, he goes by Gore.
Because it's cooler than Gregory or Gregor. Or
no, Gregor. Come on.
Still cooler. It's Gore. Okay. Come on, man.
So he is an American film director, screenwriter, and producer. He's best known for directing Mouse Hunt, The Ring, and the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Oh, and by the way, a small little film called Rango. He actually had a music career before before I think he started doing all of his acting. He was active in several LA rock bands early in his career. He played guitar in the Daredevils, Bulldozer, and John Thurm, Mike Parma, and Wiggy, the Drivers, and the all-star band, the Cylon Boys choir. He also had a band called the Little Kings, and he backs Stiv Baders on his version of Have Love Will Travel and amateur drummer Chris Poobah Bailey. So yeah, I was like, okay, I did not go into all his acting things. People, there's Wikipedia. You can go find everything you want to know about Mr. Gregor out there. But I thought music career was something new and different for Mr. Verbinski. He did win an Academy Award for that tiny little movie they call Rango, which also miraculously stars Johnny Depp as well as the voice actor for Rango. And I found it very interesting. I was just like, what are you laughing at? Now you're laughing at me. What's going on? Oh no. What is, I don't even want to know. Anyhow.
No, I was just thinking of a drinking game. Every time John says Rango, take a shot.
Take a Rango. Hold on. All right, there we go. Good.
But why is the
rum gone? Because John said Rango 8 times, and
because John's drinking it all. Now that I know this silly little Rango game, I'm just gonna Rango it up. Okay. That's all I really have for Verbinski. I mean, like, standard, very standard acting or directing career path. His first movie was The Ritual back in 1996. Then he had The Mouse Hunt, The Mexican, The Ring in 2002, which is one directly previous to the movie we're discussing tonight. He actually directed The Weatherman, the Lone Ranger, again another Johnny Depp film. So apparently he and Johnny Depp got along really well. And he's got a film, I believe, in production right now called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
Now, if I'm right, The Weatherman, that was one with Nicolas Cage.
I believe you are correct, sir.
Which is actually a really good movie. You have not seen it,
Yes.
check it out. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, it is a good one. Yeah, I didn't realize how many of the Verbinski films, because like you always talk about directors first and then talk about the movie. I don't care who's directing. I just care if it's a good movie, right? So I mean, I should probably pay attention to those things because apparently I do like Verbinski's work because I've seen a lot of them on this list. So.
Yeah. The only one of his early works I hadn't seen was The Ritual, but I'm a fan of, as silly as Mouse Hunt is, it's a fun movie, and I love The Ring. I think it's a great adaptation of the original one. So, all right. Do we have any other facts people want to throw out before we move on?
I gotta get in my quick 2-sentence rant about Michael Eisner.
Here
As
it comes.
far as it's funny, we got like a little stretch here where the gimmick, so to speak, that Disney was trying to go with to make some money was movies based on rides. The first one was the Country Bears movie. Yeah. Which Michael Eisner like totally thought was gonna pay off. Eisner's got like a bear thing. First Disney Afternoon was Gummy Bears, and first movie was Country Bears. Ironically, I believe they closed the attraction at Disneyland like right before the movie opened. But so after Country Bears failed, Eisner lost all faith in this concept because clearly the concept of ride movies is the problem. So he was between that failure of Country Bears, the expense of the film, and seeing Johnny Depp's acting choices, Michael Eisner was constantly trying to shut down this movie. And so I'm really glad that he was put in his place and proven wrong.
Yes, agreed.
I had to get that in there. Really hate.
Do you feel better now?
Yes, I feel better now.
Okay, good.
I do love that lore of, they were watching the dailies and they're watching this crazy stuff that Johnny Depp is doing. And they're just like, what is even happening? Like, is he drunk? Is he gay? Like, what?
I don't think you get it until you see it all put together. I mean, I can't imagine seeing the snippets
the faith
of him,
that you
right?
have to say, like, he knows what he's doing. Just hang in there. It's going to be great.
Well, because the other thing is, Eisner was trying to make it like an Errol Flynn, like really old school type of thing. And of all people, he wanted to cast Matthew McConaughey as Sparrow. So,
which I don't hate. I've grown to like a lot of McConaughey's stuff in recent years.
Yeah.
He's shown he has range, but at that time, that would have been an interesting choice. It's definitely not the same movie at all. Yeah, it's not the same movie without him. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
That was totally wicked!
It's time for That Was Totally Wicked. These are things we love about the movie. Amber.
I just want to talk about a little bit about the other members of the cast. We love Johnny Depp. The guy's a genius. He created a great character, but like Jeffrey Rush is having the absolute time of his life. Like he leans so hard into being a pirate. Like he actually says, "Arr,"
it's unprompted.
Yeah. And I mean, he's just having so much fun with it. And it just makes for like a great villain, but you don't entirely hate him. And, I love Keira Knightley. I love that, when the pirates are laying siege to Port Royal and they attack the house, like she runs for a sword. She's not just like, I mean, she ends up hiding in a closet, but she doesn't start out there,
Right.
She really was intending to defend herself, and she's very, very smart and very, very capable. So I really just enjoyed that. And I love all the different pirates. They were all so unique, and you can spot some from the ride, and some of them have their own little gimmick. And so I love all those things that are going around Johnny Depp are just as good as what he's giving us.
Right. I agree. Yeah, the one with the bombs, he's fun.
Yeah.
He has his own look, and yeah, there's quite a few. They made a good effort to make sure that the pirates weren't all just look alike. You know, they didn't just slap a bunch of hats and stuff on them. So yeah, they gave a lot of, and there are a lot of
And the guy with
character.
the guy with the bombs is actually from the ride too.
Okay.
He's running around the circles around the barrel, chasing the one woman around, and he's got the two bombs in his hand.
Yeah, there's
he's
like
actually
a
from the
second of
ride.
that in the movie.
Yeah, which is like hysterical to me. Like if you are a deep Disney fan, like we are, like you get all of the deep cuts that they have from the ride into the show, which is I mean, it's such a nod. It's such a nerd nod to us, the deep fans, that I was appreciative of that.
Well, what's funny about that is this started off being a movie based on a ride, and the ride kind of impacted a little bit of what went in there. Well, because of the success of the movies, they've impacted the ride.
Yep.
Yes.
So, I mean, literally they added Johnny Depp into the ride, and, you know, they've also some of the people chasing around in circles has changed. So there's a chance the guy with the bombs is not there anymore.
He's not there anymore.
So
yeah,
just saying. But either way, yeah, it's he didn't there for a while. They had you know, more characters from the movie and stuff like that. So yeah, it was an interesting turnabout. But yeah, and Mammer mentioned it before. Johnny Depp's introduction has got to be one of the greatest in film histories. When he shows up at the crow's
nest. That very thing.
Just saying.
Like
Just saying.
That's my favorite scene, people. You're talking. You guys are destroying my list.
I'm not destroying your list. I'm just saying it's probably one of the, you know, easily in the top 10.
The absolute best introduction of a character of any.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but it's
I would.
It's definitely at the top. All right, Disney John. Something you love about the movie? Yeah, right. Something you love about the movie, John.
Okay, so you already talked about literally every one of them earlier during your introduction of how you saw the movie. The zombie transition from moonlight to human, right? So moving through the moonlight was flawless throughout the entire
fight
film.
At the end between
Holy Christ,
Jack
right?
and Barbossa, where they're going in and out of moonlight and shadow.
It was flawless.
Yeah.
I watched it today specifically to see if they were good transitions or not, and it's stunning how good they are. I absolutely loved the special effects because you did not feel like, oh, look, there's a special effect happening. No, it's like, oh no, look, there's zombies coming. Oh God, look, they're human. Oh God, they're back to zombies. Especially like when they're walking on the bottom of the ocean to go out and they pass under I'm just looking at going like in awe, like, because I didn't feel like it was CGI, because one, the movie is not CGI heavy. It uses CGI, and I think it uses it in a very purposeful way. I'm not bashing this movie. It's not Star Wars 1. Okay. It's not where everything was CGI. This just used CGI where they needed it. Like, oh, look, I can't make this person do this unless they are in, you know. So to me, watching that was stunning throughout the whole movie.
When the two pirates run up the stairs to go after Elizabeth Swann, when she gets onto the Pearl, you know, it's really great because they're fleshy, and then they hit the stairs, and then and then I'm like, that is just it's so quick too. But you're like, oh yeah, what a great transition.
And you're thinking like, I mean, it's like, because how do they do that? How do they get these bodies in the same position? And how? I mean, just to me, it just is an absolute a triumph of a marriage of CGI to practical effects, and I just love it. I mean, I can't talk enough about it. I'd also like to say that the sword fighting was on point throughout the whole film.
Yes,
like every sword battle was amazing.
Well, because I believe his name is Bob Anderson. He is the original stunt double for Errol Flynn, and like pretty much any amazing sword fight you can think of in film, he choreographed and was the sword master for.
So good. I mean, I appreciated it so much. It's like Taylor Sheridan making all of in any of his cowboy stuff that he does. He makes them go to basically horseback riding boot camp, because if you watch it, it looks like these people were born in the saddle. I mean, like if you ride, you understand what I'm saying. Like they look like they were born to it. They were riding these horses, and my wife says, "Oh, you don't know." He puts them through like 6 months of boot camp on horseback, learning how to tack them, clean them. I mean, like do the whole shebang.
Right.
So to me, watching them sword fight looked like a sword fight. It was very entertaining.
Yep. All right, Liam, something you love about the movie?
Does he like this movie?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Similar to what Mom said, I really enjoy the crew of the Black Pearl, Barbossa's men in particular, like they could have just gotten any old extras, but like they went out of their way to get these character actors that are very like each one of those pirates has a personality. Like you may not know their names, but like each one of those guys, you're like, oh, this guy does this thing. Like they're all recognizable, they're all unique, and yet they form a cohesive whole. My favorite thing though, is the loyalty to the ride. Not just all the like obvious Easter eggs that, you know, like, oh, there are Easter eggs in the film and they're really well done. That's great. But like the fact that they were loyal to this ride to the point where Ted and Terry have stated that when they were writing this movie and they would get stuck, they went to the ride to help them solve the plot. First attempt at the breaking the curse ceremony, they explained that this was, at this point, they needed Will to fully go over the edge of not trusting Sparrow and decide to turn on him and go his own way. When they didn't really have an impetus for him to do so, he's like suspicious, but he doesn't have like a full-on reason to go rogue yet. And so they went back to the ride and they jumped on this one image of a skeleton on the ground with a sword in his back and like crabs eating him. And so they were like, oh, well, there you go. That's perfect because that's the scene that we're doing anyway. So they put in that image and they have Will see it. And Orlando Bloom has this great acting moment of like he sees that. He pauses and he's like, what pirate code are we talking about here? And then that explanation of what it is leads him, okay, I need to do my own thing now because I can't trust you. So the loyalty to the ride is just so choice.
All right. Very cool. All right. So I just have a couple of things that you guys haven't mentioned. So I love the score. I absolutely love the score to this movie.
Thank you. I wanted to say that. I was hoping you would.
Well, it's funny because it's fun when it's supposed to be. It's serious when it's supposed to be. As soon as you hear it, you picture the movie. You know what I mean? It has that wonderful theme, and it's great.
Say his name, Liam.
Klaus Badelt.
Right.
Everybody talks about the pieces that Hans Zimmer wrote for the other two out of the original trilogy, and nobody loves Hans more than I do. Nobody respects what he did for the Pirates more than I did. But Klaus Badelt walked so Hans could run. And I feel like more people need to respect that.
Well, to be fair, Hans was hired, but he didn't have time. So Badelt was working with him. So it was a team. There was multiple people working on the music, but Zimmer did not have time because he was working on something else at the same time. So yes, it's one of those things that you see like in the credits, there's like 4 names. I was like, well, wait, but Badelt did it. He did the music, but he worked with Zimmer. It was kind of a team that Zimmer put together. But yeah, the music is great.
That He's a Pirate track is just the greatest. Like I think it's up there with, anything that John Williams wrote for a main character.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree with that. The other thing I really, really think is great about this is the humor. Now, a lot of it comes from Johnny Depp and his delivery. You know what I mean? 90% of what he says is fun. You know what I mean? And then the other 10% of what he says is kind of serious. But 90% of what comes out of his mouth and how he delivers it just makes you laugh, makes you smile. And then I will give credit to the writers. The dialogue they gave him is great because you learn a lot about like the words, the choices he makes and the words he uses. Like, of course, referring to Elizabeth Swann as love all the time. And, when he sees the 2 guards, like, how did 2 gentlemen like you not merit an invitation? And just the choices of his words. And I think that was great because it gives him depth and it gives him, a history by the words he uses. And you do that also with Barbossa when Elizabeth Swann gets on the boat and, says, well, I want you to leave the island or whatever. And he says,
I'm disinclined to acquiesce to your request.
Means no. It's just there's so many great things in there because it just makes them smart.
It shows you that they're smarter than you may assume. You may assume that they're just like these dumb criminals, and they're not just clever; they are very intelligent.
Yeah, and then Never mind. I'll get to that later.
Oh, boy.
But anyway, no, I love the humor. And John already mentioned the sword fights. They were great. And we've already mentioned the underwater march of the dead pirates. So very, very cool. So does anybody else have anything they want to throw out before we move on?
I will reiterate something that Liam said earlier is the practical ship effects with having the actual ships on the water and you can't replicate that CGI really. I mean, like there's a feel to it and there's a look to it. And yeah, just really spectacular.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I was going to double down on just like all of the practical aspects to this movie from like the ships and the ship models, like the amount of detail they put into the interceptor model for 5 seconds of establishing shot storm footage, and then all of the prop masters had to break their own hearts by blowing it up. Like it's a blow up, it's an explosion shot, and an establishing storm shot, and that's it. And
yeah,
like
that explosion looks great.
They all but put furniture inside of the boat. That's how much detail was in this model. It's insane. Yeah, and like they had to rig a specific type of explosive. I can't remember all the details, but they like went through all this work to rig a specific explosive so that the center was destroyed, but the front and the back were still intact, and it just makes it look so much cooler and accurate to like what would have happened destroying that powder magazine. Also, the humor that you mentioned, the like one of the best parts of the climactic battle for me is like all of the serious stuff, but like then we're intercut with Jonathan Pryce fighting this like Evil Dead style skeleton hand. I love Governor Swan versus Skeleton Hand. It's hilarious.
Sure it is. Okay. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Oh,
for the love.
Here we go.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
We got no, sir, we didn't like it coming up. Just roll right into it, buddy. Roll right into it. No, sir, I didn't like it. Dayton, explain.
No, I'm going last. Disney John.
Oh, damn it. Okay. I didn't see my name was first. Okay, here we go. That failed miserably. My Passover. You should have just skipped it and rolled with it, mister.
Oh, don't worry, I'll fix it in the edit.
Okay, so for one thing for me, really, and it never bothered me until today, and I don't know why, but I noticed that they had open flame candles on board the pirate ship. When the governor was hiding in that little room, and there were open candles there on a ship at that time, there would be no such thing as an open flame. It might be a shuttered lantern. It might be something like that where it's protective of everything else, but they were just open flamed candles sitting on the desk. I don't care how rich you are. You don't have open flames candles on a ship. It is any sailor's nightmare to have a fire at sea. I can't imagine not fighting a fire at sea with modern firefighting equipment. And it's still a 50-50 shot whether you're going to be able to make it or not. So yeah, that one really bothered me a lot today. I was like, wait, I have open candles on this damn thing. That's like, yeah, here, please burn down my ship. You know,
it was strictly for looks. There was no practical thought behind it. It was just, oh, that looks better. That's exactly why they did it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I agree. And that's actually not on my list. That's interesting. So now I have to add that to my list. Kidding.
Down the ship.
All right. Liam, do you have any complaints or anything doesn't work for you?
I was able to like really scrape the bottom of the rum barrel for this one. The point of the Will Turner character to me anyway is that he is meant to be in 99% of the aspects of this plot and this world out of his depth and out of place. Like Norrington said, you are not a military man, you're not a sailor, you're not a pirate yet, you are a blacksmith. Sword fighting is the only thing he is skilled at. Like the writers discussed that, like, out of everybody, he's the best sword fighter.
Right.
So that is his one skill that he excels at. He's meant to be out of place and like fish out of water, so to speak, and everything else. While Orlando Bloom is an amazing actor and he manages to portray that very well, he just looks too much like your typical like adventuring main character. Like it's just dirty Legolas. I think of the line in Barbie when she says like, I'm not stereotypical Barbie pretty, and then the narrator cuts in, note to the filmmakers, Margot Robbie is the wrong person to cast if you want to make this joke. Like that's how I feel about Orlando Bloom as Will Turner. Like he's the wrong person to cast if you want to make this joke. He still manages to land the punchline, but it would have been funnier if it was like James McAvoy.
I kind of see that, but he also, when they jump on the ship and he goes, Avast, and everybody laughs at him, that, and he spends a lot of time asking questions. Like he's trying to gather information because he doesn't know, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I didn't really notice that, but I see your point. All right, Amber, something you didn't like or doesn't work for you.
I have just a couple, but they're really nitpicky.
Okay.
The Orlando Bloom thing for me to this day, I can't get over, because the only thing I'd ever seen him in before this was Fellowship.
Right.
And so to this day, I look at him like, why aren't you tall and blonde? Like, what is even happening in this movie? So that always throws me. I cannot stand Norrington screaming every single one of his lines. Like, he yells everything and it just bugs me. And then the biggest one is after they rescue Elizabeth and they're back on the Interceptor without Jack and they're racing away from, and the Black Pearl is chasing them.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, Elizabeth Swann is like this master sailor and like taking charge of the ship and telling them what to do. And like, these are all experienced pirates. Like Zoe Saldana had her own ship. Mm-hmm. So the fact that like, I get that she reads about pirates and she knows about boats and stuff, but honest to God, like, why is she bossing them around and telling them what to do?
Well,
like that?
Because they flat out said it's just crazy enough. It's Jack crazy. That's why, because she was a student of Jack. She read all about him and heard about him. And so I think it's one of those things that they didn't know what to do. So she just threw something out there, whether they're going to listen to it or not. But, Gibbs was like, okay, that works. Let's try it. And so I think that worked because Gibbs agreed with her. Had Gibbs said no, they wouldn't have listened. My problem with that scene is when they say lighten the load. Why in the hell do you get rid of your guns?
Right? Why would you throw away your cannons and your cannonballs?
The one thing you absolutely need if this plan doesn't work is something to shoot. And they're throwing the cannonballs out. What the hell's wrong with you? So that was it's funny when they're shooting silverware, but at the same time, I'm like, that was a bad choice. Everything we don't need. You need guns on a ship. Sorry.
I would like to add one thing before Dayton goes off and is wrong. So Norrington's character, I will say that his douchebaggery was a little over the top for me. I mean, like when he gets his sword at the first ceremony and he swings it and does all the fancy little things I'm like, all right, dandy boy, stop. It's a sword. Act like you've been there. Okay.
So
act like you've been there.
I find it funny that Amber didn't bring up the fact that there's a large age difference between Norrington and Swann.
Oh my God, is it huge or what?
Because I'm sorry, I don't care if she's now 18, but she was a child when you first met her. That's creepy. And
yep, he's got to be what? It's 8 years later, and he's becoming a Commodore. Or 10 years later. So,
no, 8 years later.
Yeah, it was 8 years.
She says, I swear she said I saw that 10 years ago when she saw the Black Pearl.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Either way, 8 or 10, it doesn't matter.
8 or 10 doesn't matter. It's still creepy as
yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry. Okay, so Dayton, prepare to tell us why you're wrong.
Okay, so literally, these are all things that I've noticed that kind of built up over the years. Now, like I said, I do love this movie. I have shirts, I have books on how the movie was made, I have the special edition. So I do love this movie, but there's inconsistencies in the writing and there's choices by our director that kind of bother me. So first of all, this movie is about 25 minutes too long. It takes an hour for us to get to the Isle of Del Muerto before an hour. We're an hour and 10 minutes into there before we finally get to there. Okay. It took a long time to get there. Oh, this is a long time. And there's a lot of exposition too, which I know Amber is not a huge fan of, just exposition. That's what Gibbs pretty much sits there with Will for like 10 minutes and just explains everything to him. Fine, whatever. Anyway, moving on. It's just too long. And we've seen the sequels. Gore Verbinski does not know how to edit. Anyway, so the Cortez gold and the curse. Okay, so let's talk about the gold at first. We are told many times that the gold calls to the pirates. Okay. And now we get that really cool shot when that one last piece hits the water and it sends out that shockwave or whatever you want to call it. It's really cool. Yes, the shockwave goes out. The guys are like, what was that? And then the wind turns. Really, really cool. Okay. So then the pirates show up at Port Royal and they go right up to the governor's house because apparently they know that piece of gold is there. Fine. Okay, cool. So if that's the case, is it a distance thing? Why was it 10 or 8 years or whatever? If they can sense it being close, why didn't they sense it on Will when he was floating away at the beginning of the movie? You know what I mean? Why? I mean, where are the rules with sensing the gold? Okay. And if Will literally is the spitting image of Bootstrap, how come nobody except for Jack, he does say, hey, have I ever threatened you before? He gets on the boat. He starts talking, I'm going to blow my head off. And like Barbarossa's like, who are you? And he says who he is. And all of a sudden the one guy goes, he's the spitting image. If he's the spitting image, wouldn't have somebody else said he looks familiar? They were fighting with him at Port Royal. Nobody thought maybe this guy looks more like him than.
I mean, there was kind of a lot going on at the
battle
moment.
haze. Battle fatigue.
And that's fine. I know that's fine. But even when he gets up there, it just seems like they're all surprised until had the guy not said, it's the line. Had the guy not said he's the spitting image, I wouldn't have thought about it.
Well, but I think Jack had a leg up too, though, because Jack already knew his name.
Right.
That's true. Which also.
And he was like, wait a minute. I'll bet you were named after your father.
Well, and yeah, he put the pieces together because he recognized him when they first fought, and then later he hears the name and it makes sense. So I'm just saying, take that line out because that line just sounds kind of redundant. I don't understand the rules of how the gold calls to them.
Would you like some type of explanation to that? Because I do have theories about that.
That's fine. I'd love some theories because it doesn't seem to. There seems to be no clear reason.
Okay, so here's part of it. So they're out in the open ocean. Okay,
how explain the gold?
So they understand where it's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when Elizabeth took it and brought it to land and it never touched water again for all of those years, they couldn't sense it as well. So if they never got close,
mm-hmm.
they wouldn't know where it was. As soon as it hit the water, it zoomed out, the wind changed, and in comes the pearl. So they know where it's at now, and they can go up and they start searching. They're frenetically going through the entire town looking for.
But if you pay attention, yes, they were sacking the town. But if they're sacking the town, looking for it, they're not looking. They were literally just blowing up the town.
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier to search people's pockets when they're dead.
That's true. But, and coming to that point in a minute, if they're looking for somebody who's not Elizabeth Swann, right? Okay, they know it's not her. So they blow up the interceptor before they have everybody off the boat. They don't make sure because if they need that blood, if they need that person's blood, how does the blood curse work? So if Will gets blown up on the interceptor,
mm-hmm.
they just screwed themselves.
Yes, they do.
If they're so smart and they need to make sure to get the right person, how do they know if they're blowing up the other ship? If they literally sent them over there to blow it up, fine.
Right.
But do a head count is something, because if they sink if they sink the ship with Will on the boat and they blow him up, they don't even know he's there because he gets on the boat. They're like, who are you? I'm just saying it seemed very sloppy. If you're looking for a particular person, they didn't ask Jack for clarification. So they don't know. So they just assumed whoever they got off the boat. They just assumed. And that's fine. But it just seems
but
to be
they also
sloppy.
didn't know. I mean, but they were also only know that there's a coin there. They don't know that Will Turner's Bootstrap Turner's kid is on that boat. I think if they had known definitively that the blood of Bootstrap was there, I think there would have been a different situation. But they didn't even know. They knew a coin was there.
Right.
Jack went across the monkey.
Yes. Monkey named
to
Jack.
go get
Yes.
and got the coin and brought it back. So they knew that the coin was there, again, saltwater activated. And brought that back, and they went through the ship. I mean, the parts that were available to them, and they were just like, okay, let's blow it up. We don't see anybody else, and then blow it up. Yes, they would have screwed themselves. I thought about that today when I was rewatching it. I thought, oh man, if they really blew that thing up, and like that's the end of the movie right there. Like they're done. They're done. I mean, I think that would have been actually kind of an interesting ending. But I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but they're pirates. They're not, precision soldiers going clear every room. Clear.
I understand that, but he's also disinclined to acquiesce to your request. So he's not also an idiot. So my point is there's
a difference between an intelligence roll and a wisdom roll.
That's very true. That is very true. That's very true. Okay. So with the curse, they need Bootstrap's blood. Fine. They even say, well, we had a blood curse to be paid. So how did the rest of the pirates pay their blood? And this is just a minor thing. So did they all have to cut their hand and drip it on the gold? Is it just kind of a passive thing because they've been shot and stabbed so many times over the last 8 years or whatever it is? They make such this big to do, then they cut her hand and drop the thing and whatever.
They have spent years trying to track down this gold and replace it all. So, I mean, I don't need to see their blood in the chest. Like, that's what they all did. Everybody cut their hand, threw their coin in, and
they might have still been flesh and blood at the time and not zombies.
When?
I don't know.
As soon as they took
maybe they take a piece of flesh off and they toss it in. That's their fucking blood. It just has to be a sacrifice. It doesn't, like, they're going for a blood sacrifice in this case because the person's alive. Maybe they have to be the ones that actually return it. Again, hit the I believe button. It's right here. Just keep hitting it until I'm done.
I'm just saying, if you're going to create a rule, if you're going to create a curse, you need to understand the rules. And that's you.
Do you?
No, I don't, because I didn't write the fucking screenplay.
Damn!
I understand where you're coming from. They don't lay it out for you.
They also then this is actually my biggest complaint. And Barbossa has this great monologue about, I've been starving to death for so long, but I don't die. I've been thirsty but I can't, whatever. I can't feel the spray, the wind on my face, or the spray on my ocean. Right? He says all those things. And it's
I know exactly what you're going to say.
It's a great delivery line. There's two problems with that. Okay.
Yep.
Number one, when they're going after Elizabeth Swann at the governor's mansion, and she drops the coal on his head, on one of the guy's head, he literally says, "It's hot. It burns. It burns." You can't feel. Okay. So we've later we're told in a very dramatic way from Barbossa that they can't feel anything. And then later, when they're pushing her off the
dress,
he goes, "Still warm. How do you know?" Because guess what? You told us you can't feel anything.
I totally agree with that. I'm on board with you.
It just, like I said, you make choices to write things for impact. Great. And you gave us rules. You flat out, Barbossa told you everything that they can't feel anymore. So you have to stick to that.
I didn't think it meant tactile feeling things with your fingers was impossible. What he was speaking of was any kind of pleasure that can be derived from life. There's no pleasure that you can derive from drinking. You can't slate your thirst. Or from eating, you can't slate your hunger.
At the end of the movie, when he gets shot and dies, he goes, "I feel cold," which is not a good thing because he's dying. Exactly. Because he can now feel. I'm just saying, if you're going to give us rules, if you're going to make a big deal about, then you have to make sure you keep to those rules that you wrote.
I'm on board with you, Dayton.
All right. Let's take a quick promo break. And when we get back, we're going to hit some favorites and give the movie a rating.
If you like fun, then you're going to love the Beard Owl Podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al. And frankly, we talk more about Weird Al than anything because he's the gift that keeps on giving. So join us as we talk through Weird Al's career, what he means to us, and we have some very special guests on to discuss the magic that is Alfred Matthew Yankovic. Beard Al, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Welcome to the All 80s Movies Podcast.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Jason. And this is the podcast where we talk about the blockbusters, the flops, and everything in between from one of the freshest decades for movies, the 1980s. So whether you're a brain, a jock, a valley girl, or a Jedi, we've got some 80s classics for you.
Do these movies stand the test of time? Are we discovering something new? Is there an 80s movie we are finally watching for the first time?
Join us each week as we dive into the cinematic nostalgia that inspired and influenced a generation. From the hits to the cult classics, we'll discuss our earliest memories, favorite scenes, fun facts, and our not-so-favorite movie moments too.
You can find the All 80s Movies Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Please subscribe and happy listening.
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
All right, it's time for Smiling's my favorite. These are some favorite things about the movie. So, favorite character, John.
I'm so glad I get to go first. So I have a cheat for mine. It's
what?
It's the two buffoon guards. I count them as a single unit.
Okay,
and you know who
right.
I'm talking about.
Yes.
I don't know that they have actual names, but like the two buffoon
Murtaugh
guards.
and Mulroy.
There you go.
Them. I just love those two because I mean they're just down there like, you know, oh, what two fine gentlemen don't get an invite to the big shindig, and like that. I like the two, and they just show up at the right times. They're your comedic relief when you needed a little bit of comedic relief, and I just really enjoyed their roles. So to really cheat, I also love their counterpoints on the pirate side of things. The
I'm not as big fan of those two. I'm
not either, but it's funny that there's a direct counterpoint.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I get you.
There's a pirate side, and like every team has a couple buffoons. So
yep.
Well, and then in the climax fight, they fight each other.
Yes.
Which is really cool. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That would be mine. Are the two buffoon guards and the pirates?
All right. Very cool. All right. Amber.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
I was trying to decide if you were going to be him or if you actually were going to pick Elizabeth Swann. I was wondering.
Yeah, I like Elizabeth Swann, but Captain Jack is the reason why you watch this movie.
Yeah, true.
I love that he's so clever. I love that he's so quick. When he gets off his sinking ship in the very beginning, and what do you say to 3 shillings? We forget.
Right.
And then he walks over and he steals the guy's money.
Right.
I mean, from the very, beginning, like everything about him, he's true to being a pirate, and he's always one step ahead. And I love it. And this movie is my favorite of all the pirate movies.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Yeah. He gets introduced as, you kind of think because he gets caught, and we kind of like he's even told, you're the worst pirate I've ever heard of. He goes, but you have heard of me. So yeah, he gets played that he's not so great, but then when he escapes, the one guy goes, "That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen."
When he steals the interceptor,
so amazing.
That is my favorite part.
I will say I did not choose Johnny Depp on purpose because I wasn't going to go for an obvious one. I feel like I'm always a Captain Obvious, so I chose something different. But I agree.
Know,
Johnny Depp is the reason you watch the film.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Do I even need to ask Liam?
Actually, you do, because I'm going to surprise you. It is not the center of the poster, but rather the gentleman to his immediate right. I'm going to go with
nice
Captain Barbossa.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Because, like, Jack is like arguably the best character, but I feel like Hector Barbossa is the best pirate.
Mm-hmm.
Barbossa is smart in like James Hook kind of way, where like he's not only educated and ridiculously smart, but he's also like cutthroat. Like just the fact that he's like learns from all his mistakes and just goes like, hey, people are easier to search when they're dead. Jeffrey Rush is the person who is consistently having the most fun at any given time. And my God, like you said, Dayton, that monologue, like the way he talks about like, for too long, I've been starving to death and haven't died. I take no pleasure in my life. I can't do this anymore. Like I've had it.
Yeah. The expression on his face when he's watching Elizabeth eat, it's almost creepy.
Sorry, I got to give it to my man, Captain Hector Barbossa.
All right.
Next one.
Good choice. So I stayed away from Depp as an obvious choice as well. And actually, I went with Will because I really
Good one.
I just like him in the role. I love his dedication to his craft. You know, even though everybody thinks it's his boss that's making everything for the most part, but it's actually him. His preparedness to fight, you know, and his willingness to sacrifice his life to save the woman he loves, even though he's afraid to tell her that he loves her. So, you know, he is, you know, he's the hero of the movie. I mean, Jack obviously is the one we watch for, but you know, Will's the hero. You know, he understands there's consequences to the action. He's not necessarily a pirate because he is trying, you know, he knows that he did something wrong. He's going to pay the price. So, you know, I like
Well, I would argue that, like his father, he is a pirate and a good man.
Man, that's true.
And a good man. Yep.
Yep.
You can be both.
Thus is the argument at the end of the movie.
Right. Okay. So favorite scene, John.
Oh boy. Okay. I love that I get to go first because I have a choice, and I always come up with tons more. So I won't go with the one that we've all talked about already, which is the opening scene with introducing Jack Sparrow and walking off for the crow's nest, because that is probably the best scene. God, it's great. I seriously, I love it. Oh boy. Okay. God. Okay, I hate being first. Okay, here we go.
Wait a minute. You just said your house happy. You're being first. Make up your mind.
Because I have so many choices.
All right, fine. We'll go to Amber. You can just sit there and be quiet then.
Okay, good.
Okay, Amber, you get to go first, apparently.
There's so much to love in this movie, and there's so many great moments. The one I picked to talk about tonight is the scene with Elizabeth and Jack when they're marooned. The morning when he wakes up in the morning and she's burned all the rum. Just her confidence in her plan and his absolute frustration. He pulls out the gun and he wants to shoot her, but he just can't. And then he goes storming off down the beach and he's just screaming the whole way. And then he looks and he sees the sails on the horizon and he just goes, "There'll be no living with her after this."
Yeah.
Yep. Such a great one. That was one of mine as well.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Liam, favorite scene.
I'm gonna go with I'm really torn because like I want to go with the fight between the Pearl and the Interceptor just because like everything about that sequence is amazing. The way it matches to the music, that whole thing is just fabulous. But I gotta go with I won't pick the whole climax battle because I feel like that's cheating. So I will stick to specifically the duel between Barbossa and Jack.
Yeah.
And, you know, intercut with Will and Elizabeth's battle. But specifically, the final duel between Jack and Barbossa is fantastic.
It's epic.
Just because we spent this entire like the second these two interact, we get it. Like they have a whole history. Like they're like brothers turned against each other. Like the blood feud is real and it's deep. All of this character building has paid off, and that like you feel every sword hit, and like there's humor and it's dark. And then that very last shot is like, you know, you wasted it. No, he didn't. Like it's
so
such
good.
a poetic little like, oh
yeah.
All right. Do I need to go, John? Or are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead.
I'm ready. You cheated.
Pirate.
Right.
I like the whole scene that happens inside of the blacksmith shop is so good. It helps follow up on the great introduction of Johnny Depp's character walking off the crow's nest, and he goes out, you know what I mean? Like, and then he's like gets caught in the blacksmith shop with like obviously a man who is severely sexually frustrated, who has made a lot of swords and had practiced 3 hours a day. Like, mate, you need to get yourself a girl. So I really love that. Like, I remember watching it the first time. I'm like, okay, this is like, you have to suspend reality for a moment, like where they get bumped up into the rafters and everything like that. But the whole scene is so well choreographed and so well done. And then he cheats at the end. He goes, "But you cheated." He's like, "Pirate." I'm like, oh, I mean, I remember watching that the first time and getting such a huge laugh out of me because it just caught me off guard. It's like, pirate. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a thing. And it was just so good. I really enjoyed that scene. Well, and then the Mr. Brown gets all of the credit at the end for
Well, of course he
smashing
does.
his bottle over the head. I'm like, oh my God.
So what's really cool about that, I mean, yes, it's a great sequence, but the callback. So Will throws the sword at the door and locks the door, so it doesn't let him out. And we come back to the very end of the movie because he does the same trick and throws it at the gallows, so that way Jack has something to stand on, so he doesn't. So I love that simple callback. It's just such a great, just
100%.
Chekhov sword trick.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Chekhov sword. Yeah, nice.
So my favorite scene, I mean, there's so many of them, but the underwater walk of the cursed pirates.
Yes.
You know, because he goes, guys, go take a walk, and Jack's like, walk? And then you see them just slowly walking, the water, then they climb up the ropes, and it's just so cool because they're in
and the way they emerge from like the darker, cloudy water,
right?
Is just
so epic.
Yeah,
it was
it's really very
it's
cool.
like the right stuff, but the wrong way.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great build up to the fight that's going to happen on the ship. So yeah, it's great. So favorite Johnny Depp role, John
Rango.
Gee, take another shot.
Rango. No, I loved. Okay, I have to say that.
But wait, John. That's not a Disney animated film, and you're always saying how much you
understand that.
Yeah, so
I understand that.
Okay.
I do like some other animations. It's not many. Rango's one of them. I remember watching. I honestly remember being like, "We're gonna watch Rango. I really want to watch it." I'm like, "Fine, okay, we'll watch it." It was so good. It was a cute movie. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought Johnny Depp really did bring Rango's character to life. Like, I mean, he really made Rango be Rango.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. That would be my favorite other Johnny Depp role. I didn't want to go into any of his like bigger roles like Scissorhands and stuff like that. I really wanted to stick with something that was smaller, although as it won an Academy Award, it wasn't his face. It wasn't like his persona on screen. It was just his voice.
All right. Amber?
Well, kind of going off of what John said, I love Edward Scissorhands, but I can't talk about it because I'll cry. So
saying the name makes her choke.
Yeah, I can't talk about it. But I want to give a shout out to a little role that he did in a movie called Chocolat.
Oh yeah, so good.
With Juliette Binoche and Judi Dench and Alfred Molina. It is such a delightful little romance, and he just pops in for a little bit and is, charming, and I love that movie. So I'm gonna give a shout out to that lesser known film.
Very good. All right, Liam.
This is the one you don't have to ask for.
All right,
it's gotta be the best pirate I've ever seen. But no, I gotta, like, looking through everything, like, he's really good at creating characters and like really going all the way for a role. But I'm sorry, like, nothing will ever compare to the character work and the execution of Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, there is a reason why this is his most well-known performance. Not enough good things can be said about the way he did this.
All right. So I went with some of his quieter, smaller roles as well, along with Amber. But I couldn't decide. So I'm going to cheat because it's my podcast.
Cheating?
Yes, I am cheating. Pirate. So
in a fair fight, I'd kill you.
Yes, that doesn't get
set up for me to fight fair. Then
that's right. So I'm going with J.M. Barrie in Finding Neverland. Or Donnie and Donnie Brasco.
Oh yeah, I almost went with that role.
Yeah, because you're right. He created a character in Jack Sparrow, and I think we kind of lose track of his other stuff that he did, the smaller films and because it was this that made him a box office draw, but he was very much almost like an indie actor for a long time. So after the fact, going back and doing the smaller film, like for Finding Neverland, I really appreciate that. And they're both wonderful movies, and he's a big part of that. So those performances stick out in my brain. So those are my choices. And I will say that I am a fan of his Willy Wonka too. I do love that character. I know that movie gets some hate, but I think he was he was so good and just off the hook.
I thought he was
in that role.
eccentric enough for that role.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. All right. Favorite pirate film, John.
I hated this question. Okay, because we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, which would probably be my number one answer.
It is my answer, so we'll just get that out of the way. It's mine.
Okay.
so
I chose to go a different route, and I chose to bring a Broadway musical into it for Robert. This is an homage to Robert. It's Pirates of the Penzance. No way. Are you guys choosing it too?
No, we argued about choosing it though.
So bad, and we thought, oh, nobody else is going to talk about this.
And I thought Robert was on this one tonight, so I was like, well, Robert's gonna do it. So
this is my homage to Robert. It's Pirates of Penzance, because I mean, I am the very modern. Oh my god, I can't talk. I've hit my rum limit. I am the very model of a modern major general. And I just thought I enjoyed this. I watched this. I remember watching this on probably PBS or something like that as a kid, and I'm going like, what is this movie? And I was like a musical, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And like, I don't know Broadway from my asshole, so I was like, this is a great movie. Like, this was so fun, and I watched it, and I would say
Kevin Kline is a genius.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, it was great.
All right, Amber.
So I'm gonna cheat.
What?
It's not. It's not a movie. It is a television show. Black Sails.
Oh,
okay. You know what?
Almost went that
100%.
route.
I will completely accept that answer.
Ding
Completely.
ding ding.
Yes.
It is brutal and real and great performance from Toby Stevens.
And I think that's why it's so good, is because it really took the subject matter seriously.
Yes, it was.
You know what I mean?
Dirty. Just
Yes.
it was visceral.
And it's got one of my absolute favorite lines: "To fear death is a choice, and they can't hang us all."
Ooh, ooh, that's so good. I have to watch it.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, Liam.
Now for something completely different.
Now for something completely different.
I think I know his answer, but I'm not going to say anything.
Ironically connected. I wanted to pick the film we're discussing so bad, but I thought I'd continue with my trend of like a way to introduce youngins to an amazing genre or whatever it is.
He says youngins.
So ironically, not unconnected to my mother's, gritty prequel to zany main story, Muppet Treasure Island.
I knew that was going to be his pick. I knew it.
It is one of the most classic, most well-known, and like one of the best pirate stories ever told. I love Robert Louis Stevenson's book, and similar to Muppet Christmas Carol, the Muppet zaniness is the chocolate coating to the caramel center that is that sweet loyalty and accurate portrayal to the source material. Like, it's a really good version of Treasure Island, if for no other reason than the utterly soul-crushing moral grayness that comes with the complex relationship between Jim and Silver. And I mean, do I even have to talk about Tim Curry, guys? Like,
No.
It's Tim Curry as Long John Silver. What more do you want out of life?
My tricorn is off to you, sir.
So it's funny that you bring that up. I mean, it's not surprising because I said I called it, but
You know what was coming.
I knew. I read the original source material. I've read the book, and I just want to point out that it's because of that book, Treasure Island, that people think that pirates buried treasure, which is completely inaccurate. That is not true.
I always quote Han Solo from The Force Awakens. You think hunting Rathars is cheap? I spent that money.
Yeah, that's right. They usually spend it on women and rum, and the smart ones bought land, and became governors of islands, but most of them just spent it. And so, yes, the whole buried treasure thing was completely created by the book. So there you go. And Hollywood bought
Isn't it
into
a
it.
great story, though? Like, don't we all want to find some buried treasure?
Yes.
Yes, well, we do. Of course we do. So, all right. Cool.
I wouldn't have to work.
Yeah. That damn lottery keeps eluding me all the time. Anyway.
Me too.
So-
We'd have a game done by now, my friend.
Yeah, we would. Final words and rating. Liam.
If you haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor and get in there, because, like, we can debate pros and cons of the sequels all day long, but at the end of the day, this movie is just fabulous. It is like high ride and adventure. To talk about like resurrecting a genre, after Cutthroat Island with Gina Davis, like that was like to draw an analogy, like Cutthroat Island was the Batman and Robin that almost like Batman and Robin almost killed the entire superhero genre, let alone the Batman franchise. So if Cutthroat Island is our Batman and Robin, then Pirates of the Caribbean is our Batman Begins. Like a talented director, like all of the work in the world, so many practical effects. Get the DVD, watch the bonus features so you can appreciate the effort and like the battle that they fought. Yes, Dayton's holding it right there. Go buy your own copy. Do it. Yeah, just set sail for adventure on the deep blue sea, my guys.
And my book that talks about the ride and the movie.
Yes. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 cursed Aztec gold pieces.
Nice.
5 out of 5 bottles of rum. Whatever. All right, Amber.
I'm just gonna say ditto to what my boy said. I love this movie. It's my favorite of all the Pirates series. And it's just a heckin' delight. And I'm gonna give it 5 gold doubloons.
All right. Disney John.
Here we go. I am going to give this 5 bottles of rum out of 5 bottles of rum. It is
5 empty bottles.
It is probably Disney's most successful live action film that they've done, including the MCU. I think that this film far surpasses anything that they've done since. I truly believe that this is probably what they should do moving forward with all of their stuff. Like, I like the MCU, don't get me wrong. But I like after watching this, I'm going like, oh, I get the comedy with the action and everything like that, but I think they lean far too much into that in the MCU. And I like it. I like that broad comedy, as Robert likes to say. But this was perfect. This was perfect from beginning to end. It told a great story. It allowed them to really like live their characters. And 2 more movies. Oh, it's so good. I can't wait till we talk about those as follow-ups to this perfect movie, because I genuinely believe that Disney got it right this time. And perfect. Like there's no complaints. There's not a universe that they're going to interfere with, snap away. They have to say, hey, you have to believe what we're telling you in MCU, or because the comics are wrong. They just have their own universe and they told a story. It was quintessential Disney.
All right. So even with my complaints, as I said before, like I said, none of them are deal breakers. I do very much enjoy this film. I have very fond memories of seeing it in the theater, and it's been a part of our life, in our house, because we're our Disney family as well. And it's one of those that we do visit pretty frequently. I've seen all of the sequels in the theater, and we own all of the pirate films as well. So, and in fact, I'm wearing my On Stranger Tides t-shirt as we do this episode. My problems, because the problems I have with it, because I kind of feel that the writers, even though they were experienced, made some bad choices. And I think some of the inexperience of Verbinski kind of shows a little bit as well. But all that being said, I give it 4 out of 5. I give it 4.
Boom. Called it.
Do you feel better? I do.
I feel great. I feel vindicated.
He was holding up the number 4 through your entire dialogue.
And I wasn't looking at him. So,
the entire time I was just like, yeah, here it comes.
It's not all about you, John. Go drink some more rum. See, there it is. It's almost gone now.
Why is the rum?
Why is the rum gone?
Oh my goodness. So, that was fun. And,
very much.
At some point we have to maybe tackle these sequels, although, never mind.
Nope, that's going to happen now.
Maybe we should just do 2 and 3 and then stop.
No, actually, I kind of prefer On Stranger Tides than the second and the third one, to be honest.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh,
Let's start that
fighting
fight
words.
battle royale.
Yeah,
Holy hell.
All right. So thank you everybody for sharing your pirate stories with me and our listeners. So, and putting up with my complaints.
Our
thank you, Disney John.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you. Once again, it was a glorious time.
Thank you, Liam.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dayton. Hopefully we can pillage another seaside town sometime.
And we'd like to thank our listeners for spending some time with us each and every week. It does mean quite a bit that you spend some time with us. So thank you very much. Our social media information is in the show notes. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think of Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp, Gore Verbinski, and anything else you want to say. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong. Most people like to do that anyway. Rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. If we see the review, we will gladly read it on an episode and share it on social media. Share us with your family and friends. Share the podcast on social media because more people, more better. If you really love what we're doing, consider joining our Patreon campaign. If you go over there, you actually can follow the Patreon for free and see what we're up to. And you can also sign up for a 7-day free trial and sample what we have over there before you actually have to pay for it. So 7 days, there's enough. You might be able to get through most of what's over there in 7 days. Who knows? Next week, we are inviting back Michael Burgett from the Screen Nerds podcast, and we're discussing one of my favorite films of the 1990s and arguably one of the better films of that decade, and it stars Jim Carrey. We are discussing the Peter Weir directed film, The Truman Show. Do yourself a favor and watch more movies, and remember, physical media is better than streaming. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.